Exclusive counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway. Good evening, Kellyanne. Does President Trump already know the answer to the question as to whether or not he was wiretapped?
He may, as Senator Mark Warner of Virginia said on a different show today. Jeanine, the president receives different intelligence than everyone else. But the real point here is what the president has said and what Sean Spicer and Sarah Sanders, my colleague, said earlier today, which is there are a couple things going on here. One is we know there were politically motivated stories and investigations all through the campaign season, and those come from credible news sources, and the president wants to get to the bottom of that. I mean, what is everybody afraid of? They want to investigate everything, even the attenuated stuff, and yet they're afraid of connecting here what the president has asked for, which is basically, if you're going to investigate, continue to investigate Russia, why not add to that an investigation of these allegations? And Jeanine, are we saying that there aren't leaks? I mean, the real issue here is one that House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes raised again today, which is leaks. These bureaucratic leaks are hurting all of us. These are national security intelligence leaks from people held over from another administration, and it has to stop. This is serious stuff.
But Kellyanne, if indeed the president's accusation is based upon open source reporting, wouldn't he, and James Clapper, who would definitely know, because if there were a FISA warrant, DNI, FBI, and DOJ would know. He is saying that there wasn't. If the president knows this, he is in a position to declassify any warrant or wiretap order were one to exist. Why doesn't he just do that and prove it? Is he shifting the burden of proof to the Democrats?
No, he's not. But two things on that. The Democrats and some of their allies in other industries love to shout Russia, Russia. Imagine if every time they shouted Russia, they would shout leaks instead. And that's something that we actually know is happening and know that there's corroborating evidence. And if we got to the bottom of that, then we all may be safer. Secondly, Mr. Clapper did not, he did not discount the possibility that this may have come from somewhere else in the administration that's not under his purview. He said very clearly to Chuck Todd that he's talking about the agencies that are under his purview, that he would have known that and he can deny that. That's a very, listen, it's a very big administration. It's a big government filled with people.
Kellyanne, we're both lawyers. He's saying it could be Title III, and if it's Title III, that it would be a local or state prosecutor in a criminal case. He's talking about federal foreign intelligence. So it's even worse if it's a federal criminal case.
But my only point is, Jeanine, I'm not crediting it one way or the other. My only point is that Mr. Clapper, in issuing a denial about a specific question that Chuck Todd asked him, also later in the interview left open the possibility that it could come from somewhere else. It's the same thing that happened yesterday when President Obama's spokesman said the cardinal rule was that President Obama and the White House officials never interfered in a Department of Justice investigation. Fine, but he did leap over the possibility other pieces of the administration may be the source of this, may be leakers.
All right, let me ask you this then. Is it appropriate for a president to accuse another president based on open source reporting or with an open-ended question? And I guess even more important, if the head of the FBI is saying and pushing back and asking DOJ to push back on this, are we now facing a constitutional crisis before the first 100 days are over?
I wouldn't say that. If Mr. Comey has something he'd like to say, I'm sure we're all willing to hear it. All I saw was a published news report. I didn't see a statement from him. And so I don't know what Mr. Comey knows, but we're all being
He would know either way, because if it were a Title III wiretap, he would know it because that's his criminal division. Or if it were an FBI, the counterintelligence, counterterrorism, he would know that too under FISA. He knows, and if he's pushing back, we've got a real problem between the head of the FBI and the president, the executive branch.
Well, and if he knows, of course, he can issue a statement, and we know he's not shy. So the other thing, the other question you asked, I just want to make the point too that we have a double standard here on anonymous sources. You know, the media are so quick to rely upon them for everything, including these leaks, any type of attenuated Russia connection. Anonymous sources, when it's negative and derogatory toward this president. If it's positive and exonerating, they don't want to hear about it. Somehow we need to have everything laid out, all types of evidence presented. The president made very clear, as did Sean Spicer, our press secretary, that we like this to be included in the president would like it to be included in the investigation, and that we'll have no further comment until that oversight is completed.
I understand. I transmit this information to Vladimir.
I will have more flexibility, he said in 2012, after my re-election.
Flexibility for what?
To work with Vladimir.
So he thought his mic was off in that moment. So that was
They didn't realize it.
a real telling moment there, that exchange.
So that's why
between
President Trump is saying, wait a second, he's being accused of being too close to Moscow while he hasn't done anything yet as president to suggest that. Meanwhile, President Obama right there on tape was saying, I want to work with Vladimir. I'll have more flexibility to cut deals with him.
Made these accusations.